Hi, No Code Ops. Phil here with a special guest from Talify today. I'm joined by Amit, the CEO. Hey, Amit.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Great to have you on the show. So this is the aha moment demo video, but before we hop into the aha moment within Talify, would love to learn a bit more about the platform in general, how you came up with it, just the backstory.
Yeah, we've been around for a while before this whole thing had a name. And essentially, what we help people do is automate tasks between people. So, whilst the techie stuff is focused on integrating apps, which we call middleware, things like Zapier, things like Microsoft Power Automate, what we're focused on is automating tasks between people, as in, I'm done, you're up next, which is great for use cases that involve approval workflows, involve multi-step processes that have to be done between people who ask each other, like, have you done this yet? Or I thought you were doing it, and all that kind of stuff, which for surprisingly in internal ops, that's all over the place.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Things that switch between people and teams. Example use cases are client onboarding. When you onboard clients, we actually have branded experiences for clients and unlimited free guests. It's actually free to invite clients into our system. And employee onboarding, which is also a sort of HR, when you hire someone, you have a process to onboard them or something. Offboarding too, and also marketing slash QA slash engineering slash financial use cases. I think operations professionals know that there's use cases across the entire board. Every team in a company has repeatable workflows. And sometimes it's not about integrating apps together. It's about just tracking, have you done this yet?
Yeah. And for everyone out there, this is just to be clear, process management, not project management. Two different
Yes.
categories. Process, think, repeatable. You can systematize it. You generally know what the inputs are. You know what the expected outputs are. Versus projects like one-off things. Sometimes you can templatize parts of them, but very one-off nature. So those are like, the Asanas and Mondays of the world. This is the process side. So I have seen, especially recently, a lot of process engines come on the market, especially for like work between people management. Can you talk to us about what makes Talify different?
I think one is the focus on these outside facing use cases. So the internal stuff is great. I think that's table stakes across everyone. We've got an integration first approach, and which means that we can hook up to RPA, to other workflow automation platforms like middleware. So we're not like an alternative to something like a middleware. We actually complement middleware. We have connectors for middleware. Because remember, middleware shifts data between apps. We shift tasks between people. These two are completely different things. So that's some of the differentiators. The client-facing use cases are the strongest aspect of this system. So when a client gets a link, they don't have to register or log in. It's unlimited and free for as many clients as you want. And what we're focusing on is the client experience becoming better. So instead of asking a client, hey, email me this info I need from you, you're now sending them a link with like 5 form fields where they can cleanly fill out exactly what you need. Hit done. And that link requires no registration. It's a link for life. So instead of, if you have 20 tasks for a client, all of those 20 live at one place for life, which is super awesome.
And please tell me when you send someone a link, they don't have to fill out information you already know about them.
Correct. Yeah, those are pre-populated things.
Love it.
But the worst part is getting someone to register for an app.
Ooh, worst.
We actually did an A/B test. There was a 60% attrition rate when you ask someone to sign up for an app just to do something. I don't know about you, but people sign up to everything every day.
A high barrier to entry.
It's like, oh, yet another password I have to remember, right? Ugh. So that's something that's painful for clients.
Amit, I'd love to just jump right in. If you want to take over screen sharing, just, walk us through, someone in operations having an aha moment within the platform. I'd love for you to
absolutely. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep, perfectly.
So just as a quick summary, we track tasks between people. You don't have to assign them just to people. You could assign them to bots and machines. As in, just hand it off to a machine. It does its thing, which we call a black box. Like, we don't care what it does. It just does something. And it calls back to us and says, hey, I'm done now. So all those other workflow automation things you see out there have completely automated workflows. All we're doing is listening to their return. That's it.
Yay, webhooks.
Yay for webhooks. Yay for, API, open APIs, things like that.
Love it.
So yeah, we hook up real-time workflows between people, which help you scale operations ultimately.
Great.
And so the way it works, and initially the aha moment, I'll start with the beginning. So we have this thing called a library. The library is where you hold your company's repeatable procedures. So here we've divided it into folders. So customer success, finance, HR, like every team in your company, right? So as an ops professional, you're probably serving all kinds of teams and departments in your company. And then someone comes to you from finance who's completely not tech savvy and says, hey, we got this really painful, stupid procedure that we're trying to do by email. Can you, no code ops professional, whoever it is, help us with automating it somewhat? Now, it's actually just a human procedure. It's not actually a machine-driven procedure. So there's lots of steps, for example, in a quote to acceptance or a client onboarding type of procedure, which I'll just jump onto. That's probably a better example. So client onboarding is a great example where you're trying to get that first impression right for a new client. And so you want to go ahead and create a bunch of steps to say, this is how we onboard a new client. Now, some of these steps are going to be done by systems, like generate a document, send it for e-signature via DocuSign, right?
Sure.
That's integration stuff. We use webhooks for that. But most of these steps, like phone the client, well, guess what? There's no machine or robot that can ever do that. It has to be a human being. So these tasks, you just kind of create them here. You sort of say what the task is. Let's say, for example, here's a task right here. Review a draft of some kind of upsell proposal or something. You create a description, which is like how you do the task. Now, this is really important because ops professionals need to capture from people the tribal knowledge in their heads. So it's not just about tasks as in like, go do this. The real question is, I'm new to this company. How do I do this? So here you want to record screencasts using Loom or take screenshots of how something is done. Some people call that SOPs. They might dump that into wikis as knowledge. Then you have form fields which collect information and so forth. Each task has default deadlines. You have default assignees. Think of this as a recipe.
And sorry, I'm assuming also the deadlines can be dynamic, right? Like plus or minus days.
Yeah.
Got it.
So like 5 days after a step is done, which we call dominoes. So dominoes is like do this thing and then do this other thing 5 days after that.
Yep.
So it's relative deadlines that are set as a recipe. You can assign people inside your company, groups, and most importantly, if it's outside people like clients, you just flip this box to yes. Like an outsider will be doing this, and that lets you do that. You can also have rules. The rules are the most powerful part, which are basically in the format if this, then that. So for example, you have a segment, if client is enterprise, then show this task. So I can make a task up here, like during onboarding a client, invite them to our annual conference, right?
Right. And one of your steps, by the way, can also be check Salesforce with this client ID to see if they're, enterprise or mid-level client, and then bring that data back.
Yeah. We actually call that a kickoff form, and we pass that through. So pass through from, a CRM, right?
Got it.
So information that's already in your CRM, we actually two-way sync with Salesforce as well through Paragon and other people, folks like that.
Yay, Paragon.
Yay, Paragon. Yeah, we actually a customer.
Love them.
So we actually hook up very nicely to all these middlewares, all these workflow automation, like we call them app-to-app tools.
Yep.
Because they move data from one app to another app. We don't do that. We move tasks between one person and another person.
Yep.
So that's so here you can have like Salesforce, client ID or whatever. So you can pass that through. And now we know we have linked this process to a record or a case number or a client ID in a Salesforce, for example. Right. And so that also pushes out on webhooks. So for example, if I want to auto-generate using a document system, like auto-generate a proposal doc and shoot out using DocuSign, right, for e-signature. All that data passes through, and you go down to advanced, and you just say emit a webhook when this task is complete. And this webhook can be caught by a Lambda function, by Zapier, by Microsoft Power Automate, which are the common middleware tools we see people using. And the whole payload of this whole process, which is just JSON, shoots out to that endpoint, whatever it is. You then unwrap it, do whatever you have to do. Yep. Then you make a callback. You see the step alias right here? Yep. That's your unique step alias. You can call back to us. And when you refer to that step alias and an object ID, we just mark it complete.
So let me run something by you to see if this is doable, because this is something I know our audience loves to think through. So let's say system of record at a company is Salesforce. All the core data is living there, the sales process, right? But you're in the operations team and you barely ever get on the Salesforce developers roadmap ever. But you have all the steps that you want to track. So ideally, what happens is you just ask your, Salesforce admin, hey, can we just get like a quick action button to like do at a certain point? And by the way, we'll manage all of the steps of this process on our own. But when it's done, you'll get some clean package of data back. And so, but you'll never have to update or worry about our steps. We'll manage them and maintain them. Like that is a great example of how to use Talify as an operator, correct?
Yeah, actually, we see that all the time. And people use variables in Salesforce to push through data from Salesforce without API integration. It's reached a point when it's so common that we gave it a word. We actually call it magic links. And magic links are basically links that you can click on Salesforce and pass through data. Okay, so for example, you're launching a client onboarding blueprint. You want to pass in the client's first name, like Bob, right? That exists in Salesforce against the contact. So how do you do that? Well, here's your magic link for that. You just put wherever the variables show up, wherever it says first name goes here. You just substitute like % first underscore name, which is what Salesforce calls it.
I love that you're making URL building for custom URLs this easy. This is such a cool interface.
And this is not even API. Like I'm not saying you even need to have Zapier or even know anything.
This is so
cool.
This
is a link. So literally you can move data from A to B just by clicking a link.
Very, very cool. And then
it's kind of epic. Yeah.
The last thing I'd love to see, and you mentioned this earlier, is just a lot of process engines, right, are really, really good at the internal stuff. It's table stakes, right? But talking about the external, like, what does it look like for a client to go into a form? So I guess they're getting this form through email, and they're clicking a link. And then what does the experience look like for a client? Like, how simple is that? Because obviously this view is great for somebody internally, but you don't want to expose everything to, the client.
Yeah, totally. Well, what's interesting about this is that the client only sees what you assign to them. So that's step number one. So for example, if I just reopen this task right here, I might have assigned it to a client, right? Every client has a guest link. So when they click that guest link, which comes from your email system, by the way. Yes. Your email, branded.
Yep.
So we actually take over, as in the SMTP that we use to send the email is
so it comes from Philip at, if I was still at Compass, like Philip at compass.com or something.
Now that's so important because any email coming to your client from, no reply at who knows who vendor.com is just going to go to spam or just go phishing, right? So they click that, they arrive here, they only see the task that you've assigned to them, not the rest. But guess what? If you assign them 20 tasks, they sit here in just the same place. They just all stack up. So your client can provide this info like, I want to meet on this date. I have these concerns, hit complete, right? They can also chat. So think Slack and Microsoft Teams, all that stuff, but in context of a task. Problem with a Slack channel that's public is that everyone can see everything, right? Whereas conversations that happen in Talify that face a guest are not visible unless you actually say, I want my client to see this. So here I've made a comment. You see how it says hidden from guests?
Yeah.
So I can
do where all the fun comments happen.
Okay. Yeah, like if I'm at replying my internal coworker, like they asked for this feature, do we have it? And they reply with like, no, we don't have it. That's not going to look impressive to your client, right? Yeah. So hide that until you're ready to say something nice, like, oh, it's going to come in next year's roadmap in Q3. So massage the response so that what shows up on the client side is actually.
And I'm assuming they get an email notification once that's updated.
Yeah, everything is just real-time emails, and we call them. So we have a name for this. We call them "It's Your Turn" emails. The reason we do that is because that's literally what it is.
Very cool.
Think about a relay race when you just like have a baton. I'm holding the baton, right? I'm like doing my thing. When I'm done, I'm going to pass it over to you, right? Because it's teamwork. So you need to know that it's your turn.
Yeah.
I said, I'm done. Now it's you. And that's very common in internal teams for approval workflows. Think about those, where if you need 4 approvals, like to send out a sales proposal or to do a financial approval. Now that's a great way of saying, Are you done? Are you done? Are you done? Like, can we get each person's thing? Which by email is just a crazy chaos of like, oh, 3 people have approved, but we're waiting on one right now. Who?
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy chaos. So
So
internal ops are just full of this stuff. Yeah.
last question on my end is kind of a gloves off, here we go question.
Uh-huh.
I have built things with different onboarding softwares before. And I found that when I connect my email, so let's say, philip@nocodeops.com, right, to the service, it only allows me to send from one email instead of like, if I have different folks on my team, they want to send from their emails. That dynamic email sending has not been so easy with other SaaS platforms. Do you guys make that easy for folks, or is it only ever coming from one company email?
We actually, what we need is OAuth access to your Gmail or your Office 365 as an individual. So if you're Bob at company, right, we need to have your email authentication access. And to do that, there's actually a certification procedure. You can't just show up and
Of course,
start,
you have to authenticate it.
And we're going through that. We're already SOC 2 certified, so we're actually becoming Google certified. We actually have a Gmail plugin that's live on the Google App Store. Here it is. So we're going to take an extension of this out so that it's individual one-to-one. As in, if I email you, it's me that's emailing you, not like...
It's not company at nocodeops.com. It's Phil at nocodeops.com, Shaf at nocodeops.com.
Correct. Yeah, like sales at company.com, right?
Sure.
So the other thing that's super interesting, and we're playing very nicely and interesting with all the AI stuff coming out, like when you upload a file and you want auto recognize the content of that file. So we work with banks quite a bit, for example.
So it reminds me of one of our earlier guests on the show was Levity, Levity.ai. I feel like this is the big space they play in.
And so whatever innovation happens in that space, we're just agnostic, right?
Yeah.
What happens to us is like you upload a file, it's an invoice. We want to auto detect the fields in that invoice and go shove them in somewhere else. We're actually using Google Cloud to do lending forms. So when you upload a 1040 or W2 government forms, we already know the format of those forms, right? So we can extract that data, do background checks, things like this. We obviously do single sign-on. That's just a table stakes thing. But one thing that's unique, though, I didn't mention this. We stream all our data in real time to Tableau or Power BI or any BI tool of your choice. So instead of reinventing the wheel with analytics, many operations professionals, they want to automate. Then after they do that for a while, they're like, can I see stats for all this stuff?
Yeah. If there's one thing operations professionals hate, it's half-baked dashboards in the native SaaS tools. Like, just let us connect it to the places we know how to do stuff.
So why, that's what I don't understand, why people build analytics.
Oh God, it's the worst. It's always terrible.
Tableau and Power BI has spent billions of dollars and decades building BI. So why not just leverage
like some basic stuff is great, but yeah.
So yeah, that's that. But also the middleware stuff, Zapier, Integromat, Power Automate. We're actually one of the very few tools with an official Power Automate connector, which we find that people in Office 365 environments, they can't use things like Zapier.
Yeah.
Or for whatever reason, they're just like forbidden by contract or something. So this is great for integrations, middleware style.
So cool.
Yeah.
Amit, this was awesome. If people want to learn more about Talify, what should they do?
Just hit the homepage, tallyfy.com. This is the homepage, and basically there's a 14-day free trial, so play with it. There's an open API. There's real human beings, me and Kurt, and we speak. Here we are. We're not just gonna hide behind an app.
Hey!
So we also have a whole team that helps out with things like this. So just don't. It's no fear. Just get in touch, and even if if you're not ready, or we're not a fit, we'll just let you know. But we want, we're keen on people just getting excited about automating those internal ops use cases. Yeah. We also have a whole partner channel. So if you're listening and you're actually a partner, like a consultant, in terms of you help people map processes, we actually have a whole offering. We have 25 partners signed up already who are kind of experts at mapping processes, improving them, things like that. They don't call themselves Talify consultants because they're already very successful at what they do.
They're process experts and business process.
So we require them to be agnostic, as in we okay with them saying Talify sucks for this use case. Use this other tool. We want to make sure they do not call themselves Talify consultants.
Very cool.
because that's how they should be. They should be neutral, right? They should objectively recommend a system because they understand the use case.
Yay for the
So
Switzerland of SaaS. Woo woo.
yeah, I think I'm sick and tired of SaaS companies like deciding to certify people in like, you're a vendor certified consultant. Like
Oh man,
that really just means you're a salesperson.
I have big
for them.
dreams of the certification front, but for another day. Amit,
Yeah.
this was awesome. Thank you so much for just like sharing your time, your energy. What a cool tool for our folks to learn. Head over to talify.com to learn more. And yeah, Amit, I'll talk to you soon.
All
Thanks.
right. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Did you? Yeah.
Bye.